hopefully the audio's alright and you can hear me relatively well. It's never going to be perfect. An S2000 is not a quiet car to do videos in. So yeah, last video I'd done, I think I talked about changing the oil pressure switch and about my gauge pod, or my SPA gauge, yeah, SPA gauge broke for oil pressure. It was stuck on full. So since then, done a bit of work. What I've ended up with is a Innovate oil pressure, oil temperature gauge, which is that one there, where the number is your pressure and the green ring around the edge is your oil temperature. As you can see, I've only just started, so it's cold. The gauge pod, so I had those two small gauge pods that didn't look great, to be honest. They just sat there. They've gone. I've replaced them with a Science of Speed gauge pod, which you can see here. So I've got my AFR and my oil pressure gauge, oil temp gauge now mounted in them. So that's tidied all that up. I was quite impressed with the Science of Speed thing. It's not cheap, but as far as I could see, it's the only company that made a gauge pod for right-hand drive. And I think with shipping, import tax, it cost me about just over £100 in the end. But it's pretty good value in terms of the finish. It looks like a factory finish. So I'm pretty chuffed with that. How I done the pressure, oil pressure, was I ended up fitting it to Science of Speed plate, that 90-degree oil filter adapter plate that I fitted. And then I did originally use the oil sump plug with an adapter to use the oil temperature, but it just doesn't work properly. It gets cold from the air passing under the sump, doesn't give you a proper reading. So I ended up removing the sump, drilling, tapping it with a 1.8 NPT, and that's perfect now. I've actually set it so that you can plug your laptop into the gauge and set the temperatures on the gauge, the colours, to when you want them to come on. So I've got mine set that it's green up to 80 degrees, then between 80 and 110, I think it was, it is yellow, and then above 110 is red. The S2000 now, since fitting the factory exhaust, it's relatively quiet. I mean, I can hear the supercharger bypass dumping air. I can hear the factory exhaust doing what it should do. And there's no excessive noise, to be honest, not that I can hear. So the plan I've got today is obviously let the car warm up and just take it for a drive. You can see the gauge of lit. Hopefully you can see this on camera. It might be that my massive head is in the way, but it should be lighting up. Mine's up to 4 bars now, which shows me that the engine oil temperatures are moving up. So I've also invested in another device. So I'm using an external wireless mic, and it comes with two microphones, wireless ones. So my plan is maybe to do some videos with the second microphone in the engine bay, and then obviously the one I've got now for just narration, which I thought would be a bit of a change. How well the engine bay noise will come out, I'm not sure, but it's worth a try. And other news as well, the car passed its MOT. A bit embarrassing really. I've done 1,800 miles since my last MOT, which was April 2019, so because of lockdown it was extended. So I've done hardly any miles in the car this year. Well, in the last 18 months. I took it out yesterday, done 50, and then I thought I'd take it out again today. But hopefully you can tell that sitting at 60 or 70 mile an hour, the car's not deafeningly loud. hasn't got that drone associated with aftermarket exhaust. The factory one does a good job of silencing it, and it's not choking power at this sort of revs, RPM, power output of the engine. The factory exhaust is fine, it's not choking it. It's when you get up to higher revs that it's going to cause an issue. So that's partly why I fitted the bypass valve on the decat, so that when back pressure starts to build, hopefully that bypass valve will dump some of it out and just claim back a few more horsepower that the factory exhaust would have lost me. So we've now got a BMW alongside us, an M4. It's tempting. It's relatively dry out today. See, around this revs, throttle position, supercharger's probably starting to close the bypass valve. We just drop it down into fifth. Good response. On a cold day you're going to get more power as well. You can probably see that oil temperature shot up a bit. That's just the heat being generated from higher revs. So in 6th gear, not where a supercharger should work well, but foot to floor, so making positive pressure. You can see starting to make boost. Oil temperatures are good, which you'd expect. A lovely fly hitting the windscreen. I've got a 19 mode oil cooler, which does the job of cooling the car well. That oil temperature's really gone up now. You've probably heard that big bang, which I think I'm probably just touching the rev limiter in, I think it was 3rd. So what I'm going to do now is put it in 4th. So this is not where a supercharger should work well. So you'll see this is where a turbo would be better than a supercharger. But once it starts building up, there you go, VTEC, pressure. You see, it's no slouch when it's even in long gears. It's not responsive. This car ultimately, to get the most out of it, you would have to peg it to the rev limiter all the time. But see, this is a prime example, right, of where when I had a horrible exhaust, I used to hate doing stuff like this. So there's a horse rider, and it's very difficult to get my car to be quiet before. Whereas, look, perfect. And my old exhaust, even at that revs, it'd be bloody deafening. And I actually felt bad for people, because horse riders are allowed on the road. I don't want to be scaring their horse, freaking it out. Actually, do you know what? Whilst there's not a huge amount going on, I should probably talk about some of the channels that I watch on YouTube. Because obviously I know sometimes it's hard to find the good channels from the crap channels. There's one called Danny DC2. It's now Dan Sylvester, I think. And I used to have a Integra Type R DC2, so I naturally went to his channel because I still like those cars. And he's got a channel, and he honestly does loads of work. They're long videos. He's a funny bloke. He's just started racing in the MR2 Championship, so he's worth watching. And then there's another fella I watch, and I'm not really into V8s and stuff like that, and that's in the US, called Taylor Ray, and he's got a Mazda MX-5, or what they call it, a Miata MX-5, that he's put a LS swap in it, which I think has about 400 horsepower that he uses as a drift car. And they're both good channels. I enjoy watching them. I did used to watch Cletus, not so much now. I think, I don't know, it's not been the same since Cooper left. This is a bit of road I always love, but you've got to be careful on the Sunday because you might have cyclists. Another S2000. No flash. That's a disappointment. But it was on film. I flashed evidence that I'm sociable. Feels quick, sounds bloody good as well. Something you never get bored. I don't know what it is about a VTEC engine with a bit of boost, because a VTEC engine sounds pretty good at high revs. I'm not talking about the shitty exhaust, a bean can. So I'm sorry if that wasn't the most exciting drive, probably a bit boring. I'll try and edit it so that there's at least something interesting in it. And then if you like it, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you can always give it a thumbs down. It doesn't bother me too much. If you've got any content you would like to see, then let me know and I'll do my best. And yeah, thanks for watching.